the circle of injustice surrounding the murder of Breonna Taylor in May 2020 is now complete. A federal judge in Kentucky has basically said that Kenneth Walker, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, is the reason Breonna Taylor was ultimately killed, and not at the hands of the police officers who shot and killed unarmed Breonna Taylor. This case just stinks to high heaven from the outset. It was always kind of lesser charges, and it took a while for these charges to even materialize. And now a federal judge has said, and I quote, "There is no direct link between the warrantless entry and Taylor's death." And this is a federal judge, by the way, who was appointed about 40 years ago by Ronald Reagan in the Reagan era. And this is what we need to remember. These officers have admitted, the police force in Kentucky, Louisville, they admitted to falsifying the search warrant. That means they were illegally in Breonna Taylor's home. They had no legal right to be there. And Kenneth Walker, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, he's basically opened fire, essentially in self-defense, because he didn't know who was breaking into his home. The officers have returned fire, and Breonna Taylor, unarmed, was killed in her own home. No officers have been charged for her murder. This case sparked such outcry around the world that it was a big factor leading to the Black Lives Matter protests, which sparked and spread around the world, demanding justice for black people, police reform, the abolition of police, so on and so forth. And one of the demands too was reform around the way that warrants are executed. And here we have clear admittance, evidence that these officers falsified the very reason for being in Breonna Taylor's home. And her boyfriend fired in self-defense against intruders in his home who had no legal right to be there. And Breonna Taylor was unarmed. These are the facts. And yet no officers are facing charges over her death. This is an absolute scandal. And the only thing in my mind bigger than the scandal itself is really the fact that this case was so significant, is so significant at the time, and yet now it's barely really scratching the headlines. This case has been allowed to just kind of drag out over a long period of time. This happened like 4 years ago, and now it's reaching its bitter conclusion that these officers who took the life of Breonna Taylor, 26 years old, in her prime of life, had her life taken from her. These officers have yet again evaded accountability. There's no justice for black people in America. This case is an absolute outrage, an absolute scandal.